Hello, everybody. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, giving me just a little slice of your time. You know that I appreciate you. You know, it's been an interesting news day because there hasn't been a ton of new, fresh stories necessarily, because I feel like everyone is waiting to exhale until after the NFL draft tomorrow. So there's a few things I want to talk about, to run through some things that scouts write, because NFL scout is one of my favorite jobs. It's one of the most interesting jobs in sports. Your job is basically to know who is talented and to know why they are talented and to predict that person's potential. And to do this, NFL scouts will go through any means. They will say whatever, but they also have a second job. NFL scouts oftentimes will say things that are untrue. Their evaluation of a player is oftentimes anonymous and not even true, in an attempt to bait other teams into running away from a certain player, right? Like if you wanted Laramie Tunsil, you could make up a number of things about Laramie Tunsil in order to run away from Laramie Tunsil. Not that you have to run away from Laramie Tunsil. The way the draft is working out, it's really just ruining his life anyway. We've got a Laramie Tunsil story coming up around the corner as well. But it's one of those things where NFL scouts, their job is to basically be the nosiest people on earth for a specific job set, right? You get vetted by NFL scouts on a level that seems comparable with someone trying to enter the FBI. The FBI goes through a vetting process. They talk to everyone in your whole family. They talk to past teachers, past friends, current friends, everybody, distant family that don't like you, everybody. The FBI wants to know if there's a red flag with you and why. Okay, they don't just hire people. Same thing with the NFL. You might make it into the league. You might be talented, but trust me, they will know everything about you before it's all said and done. They will ask you all kinds of intrusive questions. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. Like when you're talking about it, you're playing a game. Is what you're doing. What everybody is doing is playing a game. And in order to play a game professionally, you must be vetted like an FBI agent. It's crazy. It's an actual crazy thing that we do. And like, we're totally okay with this happening. And some of the stuff that scouts will put out there about guys, borderline on the ridiculous. Okay. And so Eli Apple is, alongside Jalen Ramsey and possibly even Hargraves, one of the best corners in the draft. One of the best corners that you can find in the draft, expected to be taken in the first round and probably particularly high for a team that has that need, and there are a few. The interesting thing about him is that the scouts have some questions about him. So we'll jump into that, because what the scouts have said about young Eli Apple, who is coming out a little early here, it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. And I wonder why they think it's okay to say this stuff. Like, it's crazy to me. So we'll talk about Eli Apple, Joey Bosa, the NFL draft, all the fascinating things that happen there. I think it's deeply interesting. But before we do all of that, and we have to, but before we do, I'd like to tell you about the platforms where you can reach us and where we can reach you. I always recommend Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And all of our sites are connected. You can get to Twitter from the YouTube page. You can get to YouTube from the Facebook page. You can get to hotnewstalkradio.com from any of the three, and you can get to any of the three from hotnewstalkradio.com. There's a number of different ways to find us. And if you find us on YouTube, you can check out our classic episodes. We never call them old. And the episodes that we stream live. We stream all of our local shows live. And apart from that, you can also go to hotnewstalkradio.com, stream 24/7, 365, and you can also go to TuneIn Radio. The TuneIn Radio app, free for any mobile device. Just search for it in your favorite app store. In the TuneIn Radio app, search Hot News Talk Radio, give us a favorite, and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go, and you'll get to listen to this show, Clutch with Keon Rose. We do this every day from 6 to 7, every weekday, that is. So I want to talk about the NFL draft because I'm reading stuff on Eli Apple. I'm just looking through the draft, and the things that I'm finding, it just, to me, it's one of those things where scouts will say something about a guy, and I'm like, how do you get off saying the things that you say about these guys? Like, these guys are young men. They're in their 20s. And as we know, right, and if you were a young man once or lived with one, young men aren't the brightest people, okay? They're not particularly smart. You've got a few, but even the ones that have their heads screwed on right, they're not that bright, okay? Like, there's just some fatal flaw, and then you hit like 25 years old and you start growing up. Like, it's, I don't know what it is, but just think about yourself at 20. Did you not feel like an idiot? Young men aren't that bright. But coming after some of these guys, it's crazy. Like, I don't know how you even go about proving some of the things that scouts say. So here's one scout talking about Eli Apple of Ohio State, who ran a great 40 time. He was a 4.39 40. They were talking about him trying to project where he's going to be, and they were surprised that he ran his 40 as fast as he did. But then they said, I worry about him because he's got off the field issues. The kid has no life skills at all. Can't cook. Just a baby. He's not first round for me. He scares me to death. His Wonderlic was 21. Now, first off, I just hate the Wonderlic test. I've never actually taken the Wonderlic test. I've taken one of those fake versions of the Wonderlic test. But the Wonderlic test is one of those things where you try and rate intelligence based on like totally inane questions that don't have anything to do with football. Okay? I think I took one of those fake Wonderlic tests. I don't even remember what my score was. And I don't know if that's just because I didn't want to remember. I have no idea. But it's one of those tests where it's a bunch of word problems. Sometimes it's math. Sometimes it's logic puzzles. And you've got to answer it in a very short amount of time. It's not that the questions are impossible to answer. It's just you answer a bunch of ridiculous non-football questions in a very short amount of time. And, you know, a lot of the players that we consider to be the most intelligent players that have ever played the game score usually very high on the Wonderlic. Peyton Manning scored very high on the Wonderlic. Dan Marino scored very high on the Wonderlic. And then there are players that scored very poorly on the Wonderlic that did about what you thought they were going to do in their career. Morris Claiborne with the Dallas Cowboys, corner that was taken a few years ago. He didn't do very well on the Wonderlic. Vince Young with the Titans, he didn't do very good on the Wonderlic. And I'm not sure what that test is supposed to say about your mind. Because your ability to process information and retain information, that's not necessarily what you're being asked to do on the Wonderlic. That's a weird thing to me to use as a metric for somebody's intelligence. But here, Eli Apple can't cook. Let me tell you something, folks. I'm 26 years old. I don't cook very well. I can cook, sort of. I will cook all the basic things in life. Ramen, spaghetti, mac and cheese. I'm really good with cereal and sandwiches. I am not a cook. Okay? I am not a cook. It's not happening. But that doesn't mean that I don't have life skills. It's just a weird thing that a scout could actually come out and say that. Somebody can say that about you. And they're perfectly justified in doing so, and we expect them to do it because that is their job. Money is actually exchanged hands, and it's different from being in the media where you're critical of people, but your name is on it. Like, I am critical all the time of not just other members of the media. I'm critical of players. I'm critical of coaches. And if I think something's dumb, I'm going to tell you it's dumb. That's my opinion, but also my name is attached to that opinion. Scouts get to do this stuff anonymously. And that is weird. That's strange that we're all just cool with this part of the process where scouts just say horrible things about people. And we don't have any precedent going back. Okay. We don't have any precedent going back for like other players who scouts thought were stupid. Because you remember what they said about Peyton Manning? There are articles, and Bill Barnwell of ESPN, who's a great NFL writer. You should definitely read his stuff during the NFL season. He's got a great thing on a Sports Illustrated link where basically there's a Sports Illustrated article before Peyton Manning got drafted where Peyton Manning in 1998 was basically being described as a person who was pants on head stupid. Like just not very bright in all matters, not even remotely relating to football. He was, quote unquote, a domestic idiot. Let me read you what this article from Sports Illustrated in 1998 said. Cooper, that's Peyton's brother, Cooper Manning, calls his brother somewhat of a domestic idiot. My mom went up to his apartment after training camp this year, and she caught him turning his underwear inside out so he wouldn't have to use the washing machine. A couple of weeks ago, he called my wife and asked her how to eat soup. Amazingly, that's not even Manning's worst soup-related display of cluelessness. Once, when he was sick, he called Thompson to ask how to open a can of soup. Quote, he did not know what a can opener looked like, she says. Another time, Manning placed a long-distance call to Thompson from his dorm room and expressed the desire to have Chinese food delivered. Flustered by the process, he persuaded Thompson to call a Knoxville restaurant from her apartment in Charlottesville and make the order for him. Last year, Manning complained about the poor reception his TV was getting. When Thompson showed up a month later for Indianapolis season opener, she says the set wasn't hooked up to the cable wire. Peyton Manning doesn't know things that aren't football. It's just and this is not The Onion. This is Sports Illustrated at the beginning of his career about Peyton Manning. So I'm going to say to anybody coming down on Eli Apple or any prospect that scouts are saying this guy's not very bright and this guy's not very bright. Peyton Manning had a rather successful 18-year career, whereupon he didn't know how to use a can opener at the beginning of it. That's incredible to me. I'm not a person who cooks, but I can open a can of soup. It is one of my best dishes. Chicken noodle soup. Straight from the can. Come on. But we're going to cut Peyton Manning the slack. But we're not going to come after the scouts for just throwing all of this stuff out there. Like, I don't even know how true any of what that scout said about Eli Apple is. Scouts get to say stuff anonymously. And a lot of times to lower your value so that the team that they work for has a chance to draft you. It's just absurd. Okay, here's another one that they wrote about Joey Bosa, who's a defensive end expected to go very high in the draft, possibly in that 5th area. Joey Bosa. And again, scouts just get to say, it feels like, whatever they want, and there's not a red flag for the scout. Like we don't question the scouts. It's just, oh yeah, that person's close to the football process, so we just believe you. We instantly believe you. Here it is. A scout wrote from the same series that's on jsonline.com. He is, quote, a little bit of a loose cannon, said a third scout. I'll call him a meathead. He likes to go out and have a good time. Hell of a player, plays hard. Father John was a bust as a defensive end drafted with the 16th pick by Miami in 1987. I did his father. He was kind of a stiff, straight line guy, said another scout. This guy must have gotten his mom's flexibility or something. How do you get away with saying stuff like that? Like that's punch you in the face stuff. If you say that to a person's face and they hit you, I'm not advocating violence, but I wouldn't feel bad for you. If you called someone's dad a stiff and then told them that they were a meathead, I mean, that's punch you in the face stuff. I don't advocate violence, but it's just you would have it coming, is what I'm saying. You're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Scouts confuse me. The whole NFL pre-draft process is confusing because we allow things in situations that we don't allow anywhere else. And it's not the NFL. It's all of them. But the NFL, because it's turned itself into this 365-day-a-year sport where every aspect of the game, even outside of the lines, is analyzed and watched and heavily televised and broken down from 100 million different angles, we see all of the unfavorable things that have been happening, and it's the only process, it feels like, on Earth where all of these things are okay. And it really is it. To ask the questions that a lot of these athletes get asked in a lot of situations, especially as young guys coming out of college. Like, how I understand the questions are to get a rise out of you, to see how you're going to react, but it's just so unfair to be able to do that without seemingly any repercussions, except that we're the people in the position of power and we don't have any, we're trying to pay you. So whatever it is that we do in our quest to figure out how much to pay you and if we should pay you, it's all justified. And there should be a line there somewhere. No, there should be a line. So I have a development, right? And there's a story. We talked about this story 2 weeks ago. The story is about Jonathan Nicola, a 6'9" junior who was a fantastic basketball player, tearing it up for Catholic Centric High School in Windsor, Ontario. He was impressive. He was amazing. His coach put together a video for scouts to see how he played, see how well he played. He looked really great. Coach thought he had a bright future ahead of him. This high school senior, who turned out to be not a 17-year-old who was dominating the world of high school, but a 29-year-old man. 29 years old. And I have so many questions on this story. How do you not notice? And he was living with his coach, by the way. How do you not notice that you're living with a 29-year-old man? Something's wrong there. How do you not notice? Okay, like there's a level, like we've all seen high schoolers, even high schoolers who are huge for their age and just look like grown men. Especially if you watch college football, like, like a lot of these guys just look grown, but then you hear them talk and they sound like kids. Like Joshua Dobbs, when he took over as a freshman at Tennessee and led the Vols on a lot of those comebacks late in the second half of the season, Joshua Dobbs looks like an adult. He sounds like a kid. And he was 18 at the time. He was a kid. He sounds like a kid. I think I would know a 29-year-old man when I saw and heard a 29-year-old man. There's no way I live with a 29-year-old and don't know. What are you talking about, man? Like I went to Southern Adventist University and I lived on the dorms on campus, and I lived with a senior. I lived with a senior and I lived with a freshman. My freshman year, I lived with another freshman, and then my sophomore year, I lived with a senior. There is a marked difference between freshman and senior in college. You're telling me that you can't see the difference between 17 years old and 29? Just looking at him? Just listening to him talk? It's unbelievable to me. Now, people have accused Nicola of lying about his age to obtain a student visa. The South Sudanese man was held since April 15th by Canada's Immigration Services, and in a hearing last week testified that he truly did not know his own real age, and even his mother was not able to tell him. Quote from a transcript of the hearing: "I always keep asking, what is the specific age that I was born? And she always told me that she could not remember. Over in South Sudan, not every year we study, we always keep moving to different schools. And over there, they do not ask your age. They do not ask you nothing," Nicola said. Which, I mean, I guess, and I could understand growing up in confusing times when people don't tell you how old you are. But somebody's got to look at this guy and go, that's a grown man. That dude's just grown. Maybe he wouldn't be able to tell you. But you lived with a 29-year-old man and thought he was 17? Really? I almost don't even buy his story. We'll talk more about the NFL draft, some NBA hoops, some college football right around the corner on Clutch with Keon Rose. Next.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. Cross Creek Villas. Rick Davis Golden Diamonds has got on his sunglasses. He's buying so many glittering diamonds today, he's almost going blind looking at the haul. Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, come on in today. He'll give you top dollar on a sparkling field of diamonds, an ocean of value that he wants to convert into cash for you. Come on in today, sell your diamonds. You'll get the biggest wad of dollars anywhere for your gleaming diamond. Rick Diamonds Golden Diamonds. Rick wants to meet you in person today. Diamonds, Rick loves them. He'll take your diamonds and gold and you'll walk out with ready-made money in your pocket. Hundreds, 50s, 20s, and $10 bills. Cash, cash, cash at Rick Davis Golden Diamonds. Rick Davis, Brainerd Road near Eastgate Town Center. Cash, 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 and more cash.
A few widely scattered showers and storms are rolling from the south and west through the nighttime. Overnight lows into the lower 60s. For Thursday, after an early morning shower, drying out for the afternoon, still warm, highs near 85. And for Friday, lots of sunshine, heating up, almost like summer highs, upper 80s. Rick Pino, Heart Cry Worship, Chris Brooks, Luke Holter, and more will be at Clyde Chattanooga, a student conference at Abbas House in Hickson, July 14th through the 16th. Early bird registration ends June 12th. More at CollideChattanooga.com. And I'm Soar Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Another shooting has been reported in the Chattanooga area, this time in East Ridge. A shooting was reported to the police on the 600 block of South Germantown Road. A victim appeared at the Park Ridge Hospital overnight. It's not clear if this shooting is gang-related. Well, the cost to repair for the Wilcox Tunnel has apparently gone up by about $10 million. City Transportation Director Blythe Bailey said that the higher estimate is based on some recent soil samples. The results of the testing will add significantly to the cost. The city has applied for a federal Tiger grant, and the price tag has been put at $54 million. That price has risen to $64,676,000. Chattanooga Mayor Andy Burke is wanting to spend $1 million to buy crime-fighting cameras along with other IT infrastructure. Some of that infrastructure will allow for police officers to do reports in the field, and apparently cameras will also be going up elsewhere in the city to help identify criminals and to stop crime before it happens. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
So I was looking up stuff that NFL scouts ask players because, like, I didn't have any examples, but the NFL scouts in the past have just asked players some of the weirdest, most intrusive questions. And so I looked up some of the worst of them. First off, Eli Apple was asked a number of questions by the Atlanta Falcons. They actually had to apologize because they were asking gender questions. A few players told me the Falcons were asking gender questions, inappropriate gender questions. This is disappointing. Let's look through it here, because it wasn't gender questions by itself, but that the way they asked these questions, you could see how somebody could be offended by the way some of these questions get worded. Okay. The Atlanta Falcons asked draft prospect Eli Apple if he was gay, which, you know, is inappropriate to ask for a number of reasons. Because first off, you can't discriminate against somebody for being gay, right? You're not allowed to ask that question there. You can't discriminate against somebody for being gay. So what is the point of asking that question? Like somehow he's not going to be as good a defensive back if he was gay? That doesn't make any sense. And then on top of that, that's not the situation where you would ask that. That's not something that he is required to disclose to you. But they met with him and they asked him that question. They thought it was appropriate. But that's not the weirdest question that NFL scouts have ever asked people. NFL scouts have a track record of doing this. And I remember the Des Bryant story when that whole thing happened, because Miami once famously asked Des Bryant if his mother was a prostitute. The exchange made it seem more like an awkward misunderstanding than a horribly misguided question. But basically, the question was this. He said, my dad was a pimp. And they said, what did your mom do for a living? And he said, she worked for my dad. They said, your mom was a prostitute? No, she wasn't a prostitute. Like this entire line of questioning, there just has to be a point where you ask yourself as the interviewer, for what purpose does this actually help me? What does this serve here? But you're looking at the athletes coming up, the draft prospects, you treat them like cattle. Straight up. You treat them like they're cattle, not like they're human beings. You have them wear spandex, run and get timed for running, answer inane questions in a testing room setting to try and determine the football intelligence of an athlete through questions not in any way related to football. You're not trying to discover if this guy's a good person. You're trying to discover, is this guy with his physical body, with his meat, able to help me? And that is ridiculous, because you cannot get treated that way in any other occupation, because you wouldn't work for the company that did that to you. Our problem here is a little twofold, right? The first part of the problem is the NFL is the only place where you can play football. They have the monopoly on football that anybody is watching. Yes, the Canadian Football League exists. No, nobody really cares about it in America. Yes, there's Australian rules football. No, nobody really cares about it in America. The NFL is the place that you're going to play if you want the payday. That's just how it is. If you want to actually make any kind of money, and it's the only occupation where you can ask those kinds of intrusive questions, where people are not treating you at all like a person, and you can get away with it. You're in a position of power. The person you're interviewing, you do not necessarily need as a person. You need as a physical component to the giant machine that is your football team. Okay, only the quarterback position do we worry about the mind. Everywhere else, it's, does this guy make good decisions on and off the field? Good decisions basically meaning don't get us penalties and don't get arrested. That's about as intelligent as they really care to go. For everybody outside of quarterback. Everybody else, it's how much can you lift? How much do you weigh? How high can you jump? How fast are you? Then the other intrusive questions that they get to ask you is basically about trying to figure out, are you going to get arrested or not? Which I think that is not something wrong to ask. If you're going to invest a ton of money in a guy to try and figure out if they're going to get arrested or not. But then don't ask weird questions that don't have anything to do with that. For instance, NFL defensive end Austin Lane turned heads by tweeting some questions he claims teams asked him during the interview process. And I recommend you look this article up on SB Nation. There's some really hilarious gifs with it. He said, when a scout asked me at the combine if I had to murder someone, would I use a gun or a knife? Why? When a scout asked me at the combine, boxers of briefs. Now, that's a weird question, but actually, the rationale behind boxers of briefs, I would just like to hear someone's rationale behind that. I don't even really. I want to hear your rationale behind that. Okay, I'm more of a boxers guy myself, but just spouting information that you didn't need to know. But I would like to hear the rationale behind that. That's just more of a curiosity thing. That has nothing to do with football, though. It is a weird question. When a scout at the combine asked me, if you could kill someone and not get caught, would you? Well, gee, let me think real hard about this one. How about no? How about no? Like, these questions are just so bad. You're on a mountain in Alaska, on a bus going 100 miles per hour. Where are you sitting on the bus? Like, I don't understand the benefit of that question. That's just a weird question. It's not intrusive. It's not inappropriate. But it is a stupid question to try and figure out if a guy is going to be a good football player for you. The wonderful which animal are you questions. Western Michigan offensive tackle Willie Beaver said the Falcons asked him if he'd rather be a cat or a dog. Okay, and Falcons GM Thomas Dimitroff said he would pick the more explosive animal. That's what he wanted to hear. Although he claimed the team's personnel side wasn't responsible for the question. But this isn't just one rogue team asking a kind of silly question. There's a story on Cam Newton from earlier this year. Cam, basically, someone asked him if he would rather be a cat or a dog. And Cam said that he sees himself as more of a human being. And then they immediately asked him afterwards if he had a problem with authority. No, he doesn't have a problem with authority. He doesn't want to answer your silly question. And it is a silly question. Because whether or not Cam Newton chose cat or dog hasn't got anything to do with his ability to play quarterback in the NFL. That has nothing to do with it. There's not even a trend there. It's just silly. Alabama wide receiver Kevin Norwood didn't get the question, but he was asked what type of animal he'd like to be. He said, I never thought about it before. I sat there for at least 2 minutes thinking like, okay, I'm dependable. I'm a silent killer, so the closest thing I thought of was a snake, a python. Nobody hears it coming, but when it comes for you, it's going to kill you. I guess the idea is if you're learning about a player's personality, like what kind of person, what kind of animal are they going to choose to describe themselves? But again, the questions are just stupid, and it's only in the NFL, in the draft process, where we allow this level of silliness as an actual indicator of your abilities. Like if it wasn't for that little caveat there, then you could ask all the stupid questions you wanted, I guess. But you're not. You're trying to indicate whether someone is a loner or if they're a hard worker by asking them if they see themselves as more of a cat or a dog. The teams are trying to fluster you and see how it is that you're going to react. It's just a weird way to do it to me, and I don't know what it is that's going to happen. I mean, like, okay, so here's one. Blake Bortles, when he was in the draft process in 2014, told Dan Patrick that a couple of teams wanted to know if he had a girlfriend. He did. It was Lindsay Duke, who is internet famous. Bortles' college coach, George O'Leary, memorably said, deserves 6 million Googles. Bortles added that during an awkward exchange, one team rep asked him, if we come to town, will she be there for dinner? Bortles suggested that they wanted to see how he would react. He's probably wrong, though. Like it just sounds creepy and weird. Like, yeah, is your girlfriend going to be there? We'd really like to know if your girlfriend going to be there because like, no, like you don't ask stuff like that. Am I being interviewed for my profession? An NFL scouting question. Which team do you pick in Madden and why? This is a totally legit question. It's just weird. Who cares? You pick whatever team you like in Madden. Like I'd never pick the Cowboys in Madden because I hate the Cowboys. Like it's like just even the questions that aren't intrusive, like was your mom a prostitute, are just bad. And I don't understand how we get away like just letting these guys ask these questions. I'm running a little long on this, but I really don't understand them. What's the drug of choice on your campus? This one actually came from NFL Network Steve Mariucci during a sample interview with Geno Smith. Apparently, the correct answer is supposed to be, sir, I am high on life. Okay, cool. I suppose that question has some merit if you know what the drug of choice is on campus. Possibly, you were partaking in the drug of choice, but not necessarily. Do you wear a G-string or a jockstrap when you play? This question was asked of Gerald McCoy, and McCoy was just stunned. That's all that happened. I mean, do you feel entitled as a white running back or like a poster child for white running backs? This question was asked to Vikings running back Toby Gerhart, because of course the NFL doesn't have a ton of white running backs, and it's just that's an interesting occurrence in and of itself. But it's strange. It's just a strange question to ask somebody. Like, what's he supposed to answer there? And what do you gain from anything that he would say? What is your goal for a family going forward? Are you looking to marry young or stay single? If you could pick one superpower, what would it be? When did you lose your virginity? How about none of your business, NFL scouts? Gee whiz. Like, why? Like, all of these questions are beyond intrusive, and more importantly, they're not necessary in any way. They don't serve a particular purpose, except to be reactionary and edgy. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and hit us up at hotnewstalkradio.com, where we stream all of our content, and you can get to our YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter page from there as well. You can also check us out in the TuneIn Radio app. Search it on your mobile device in your favorite app store. Search for Hot News Talk Radio, give us a favorite, and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. I just don't understand that, man. So more bad news for Laramie Tunsil, who's getting bumped down the draft through no fault of his own. He didn't do anything wrong, but teams wanted a quarterback more than they wanted him, so he might find himself going to the Titans at 5 instead of going to the Titans at 1. Interestingly, he's being sued by his stepfather. Interestingly, and rather unfortunately as well, he's being sued by his stepfather. And his stepfather has a rather interesting timing here with the timing of this particular lawsuit. Your stepson is about to be taken very highly in the NFL draft, and the time that you've chosen to sue him is now, right on the verge of basically his payday. The timing to me is awful here. I wonder, because there's nothing to be gained here if he sues him before he gets drafted or before you know that he's going to be going high in the draft. And it's pretty crazy. He served a 7-game suspension during the season for accepting impermissible benefits. So there's already that kind of red flag around him for teams to see. But this lawsuit here, I don't think teams ought to look at this and see this as anything more than someone trying to cash in on Laramie Tunsil's success. This is a money grab, okay? It's a money grab. Plain and simple. The lawsuit seeks compensation for defamation, for bodily injury, pain, suffering, severe emotional distress, medical causes. And when I start to see damaged reputation and emotional distress, that combined with the timing of the lawsuit, I become skeptical. Very, very skeptical. Okay? Because people are talking about a heated conversation between Tunsil and his stepfather, but it something doesn't add up here. The quote goes on to say the disabled Navy combat veteran was simply unable to protect himself from the unprovoked assault by the 6'5", 305-pound, powerfully strong offensive tackle. Unprovoked, right? Like he just went crazy and shoved you into a wall. I just have a hard time believing that. His stepfather is also hurting his draft stock, ironically. The amount of money that Laramie Tunsil could make is reduced if for some reason teams actually see this lawsuit as a red flag. Right? It's insane. It's insane. And again, the timing of it is just so bad. I don't trust anything that's around that. And neither should you. We've lost a decent amount of time here. So a reporter asked Draymond Green a bunch of questions, a bunch of weird questions about the Houston floods, and he's been fired. He's been fired. And I don't disagree with that firing, because the questions that he was asking were strange questions. And the guy asked questions about the flood. Basically, he was saying that when the Warriors came to Houston last year, they won the game that it flooded in Houston last year, and then they came back this year, it flooded again in Houston, and they won the game that flooded in Houston this year. And Draymond Green stopped the guy and basically lit into him for asking a bad question. But the question directed seemed strange. The question directed, Draymond Green believes that it was about trying to trick him into saying something about the team shooting a lot of three-pointers and how they've got Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and they're the Splash Brothers, and something about the flood. And Draymond Green basically said, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me to answer this bad question, and I'm not going to do that for you. People are losing their homes. People have lost their homes. They've lost their cars. They've lost their lives. This flood is real. And that reporter who asked all of those questions and thought it was okay to be ridiculous, he's been fired. And he has this very thick accent. I don't know if English was his first language there, and if that was just a language barrier thing, but it is a bad question for whatever reason that he chose to ask it. The question's not good, but it seemed like he was trying to get the question out, but it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy that would be a question to ask there, like somehow trying to connect the flood to the Warriors. It was unclear what he was trying to say, but there are some questions you don't ask. They're bad questions. And Draymond Green blew up at the reporter. I think it was justified in this case. Not necessarily the Mike Gundy blow up, the famous come after me, I'm a man, I'm 40, which I feel like was justified but could have been handled much better and much differently. This one is more justified because of what's at stake with the lives lost and the homes lost in the flooding in Houston. And there is quite a bit at stake there. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for listening to me today and giving me just a little slice of your time. I cannot stress enough, right, about the NFL draft and how we've turned it into a 24-hour thing that we cover. We turn the draft into a year-long thing. We make mock draft after mock draft, and I've been into it, but I'm growing jaded by it, and I've grown jaded by it for a number of reasons. But one being that the NFL behaves in a way that I find repelling. The actual entity of the NFL. It's the issues with Deflategate, to me, are all of the things that you don't like about the NFL. None of the things that you like about the NFL are in Deflategate. It's a story that's been beaten to death. It takes way too long. The NFL gets actually just coverage. They'll take any kind of coverage, not necessarily bad coverage. They don't care. They'll just take any coverage of their sport. More stuff to fill the NFL network with. And then on top of that, they've been so unreasonable in how they're handling the situation, because Roger Goodell has been judge, jury, and executioner here as the commissioner of the league. And the courts have set a precedent here where anything that Roger Goodell feels like disrespects the league, he can come after you for. And he can hit you with as big a penalty and as big a fine or whatever as he feels is necessary. The players don't have any power. And it's always the players that seem to get raked over the coals on this. They don't have any power. And I would hope that the next time the collective bargaining agreement is up, the next time that it's up, the players do not relent on the issue of power and the issue of the ability to arbitrate. Because when you give that ability up, it's hard to take back. Roger Goodell already had way too much power coming into the collective bargaining agreement, and he has taken more and more during his time as commissioner of the league, and quite frankly, it's wrong and it's disgusting. And then we're going to talk about enjoying all the festivities of the NFL draft as though none of this is happening. And you can expect it. The Boo Birds will be there tomorrow when Roger Goodell goes up to introduce himself and introduce the league and welcome new players into the league. He's going to hear the boos descending from wherever they are in Chicago. He's going to hear it, and he's going to deserve it. Thanks for listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We do this every day from 6 to 7, Monday through Friday. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. Free Talk Live coming up next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Shake, shake, shake it at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. The most delicious and unique milkshakes. How about this for delicious and different? Add freshly cooked bacon to any milkshake.
Is that even legal?
You bet your milkshake and booty it is. Chocolate caramel bacon shake. Coffee caramel shake. All hand blended. Shake, shake, shake it. Down at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Just about any flavor shake that you can imagine. And they are delicious. Get your shake, shake, shake on at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Five Guys Burgers and Fries, located in Hickson at North Point. Gun Barrel at the Walmart Center. Downtown 4th and Broad. And in Cleveland at Keith and Stewart.
Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
Unlimited streaming, T-Mobile. No overages. T-Mobile. Get the latest Samsung smartphones. T-Mobile. No credit check required. T-Mobile. Let's set the record straight on coverage. T-Mobile has the best coverage in the Chattanooga area. For a limited time, get 50% off a Samsung tablet when you buy a select Samsung Galaxy smartphone. Only at T-Mobile. T-Mobile, doing data differently. T-Mobile. Unlimited streaming. No overages. T-Mobile. Route 153 Hickson, next to Starbucks. Open till 8. Call 876-9022. That's 876-9022 for T-Mobile.
House in the middle of our street.
Hi, I'm Sabrina with Sabrina Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an all-time low, which translates into higher sales prices. Call us today at 423-499-7780 to set up a free consultation and discuss our unique and aggressive marketing programs. We will provide you with a free market analysis to determine the right value of your home. Call us today at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at SabrinaRealty.com.
Our house in the middle of our street. Our house.
Money, lots of money. I want to buy and sky.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business? Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock. Call me now, 875-5621.
Money, lots of money. I want to buy and sky.
Charge! Get back there, you dang Yankee! Great horny toads, I'm up north. Gotta burn my boots, they touched Yankee soil. Lay down your arms and step forward.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
Dennis Hastert is going to prison. More than a year in prison for the disgraced former speaker. I'm Stephen Portnoy in Chicago.
Ted Cruz picks a running mate, Carly Fiorina.
Carly is brilliant and capable.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Jim Taylor. How far the mighty fall? Dennis Hastert, sentenced today in Chicago. Here's CBS's Stephen Portnoy.